Hello friends, and welcome back to Maple Bay Potager. My name is Faye, and today I'm going to be taking you on part 1 of July 8th's garden walk. So we will be looking at the perennial beds and the raised bed garden area. So come along and I'll show you what was going on in July.
Okay, so I think we will go in reverse order from last time, since we did not finish last time. Hopefully it stays nice and overcast for us. It looks like it will. So at our compost bed, exciting things are happening. We have snapdragons opening. The sweet peas are climbing with some assistance. And these ones look okay. Lots of pansy blooms. Looks like they're getting ate over here by slugs or something. Still pretty though. And so the two sweet peas that seemed most affected by the herbicide, I have pinched back and I have treated all these beds around here with vermicompost tea, and things immediately started looking a little less sad when I did that. But I mean, there's still signs, but these leaves are not just like hard and curled like so tight that they're hard. So I think that these plants might bounce back. I don't know about the two on the corner, but we'll see. Like, aren't those just the sweetest? I just love pansies. They're so cheerful. Over here, things have changed. So back in the corner behind the compost bin, this is where I am expanding my perennial bed. So all of this was lawn to start with, and I am slowly, I'm slowly, mostly passively expanding this area year over year. So this is the tree stump I am attempting to kill. This is where I was going to plant watermelons. But once we get in there, this whole compost pile is an ant nest. These red and black ants, I don't know if you can see them in there, but they're huge and they're all in the compost. So I decided to give my watermelons a fighting chance. It's a cold, rainy year, so I don't know if we're gonna get to harvest any watermelons anyways, but I planted them over here. There's one sad watermelon, and there's another little tiny one right there. And I am not going to hold my breath for watermelon this year, but I decided to plant them not in the ant hill to give them the best chance. And what I have planted in here is just all of my extra tomatoes that I didn't have room for. Well, not all of them, 12 of my extra tomatoes, for a grand total of 80 tomato plants this year. And then this is a zucchini that I fear the ants are going to kill, and that is a little spaghetti squash that they kind of look like they're leaving alone so far, and so far they seem to be leaving the tomatoes alone. They've only been in here a couple days, so we'll see. But I thought with the extra tomatoes I was going to compost anyways. If the ants kill them, I'm not that worried about it. So I still have a whole bunch of milk jug starts. I have emptied a bunch, but these will be going out into the meadow, which is next up on the list now that the vegetable garden is finally planted. And around this area, I have laid down cardboard. And then these are those bags of leaves I got from my neighbor. I decided just to go ahead and lay those down over here and kill the grass this season. So next year I will be working on planting this area with more perennials. So here is the perennial bed that I've been establishing for the last 3 years now. So this part of the perennial bed, probably where the irises are, is a year old. This is its second year. So I started everything pretty well from seed, or like these peonies came from tubers from my Nana's house. And then this area is 3 years old, but some of the plants in here are only, or no, I think they are 3 this year. Wow. So we'll go through and take a look at what's going on. These are my Nana's pansies mix and the back to black violas. Lining the front of the bed with strawberries. So I'll start over on this end. Back in the corner, I have a few rhubarb plants. So this one's very well established. And then there's 2 little babies that my friend started from seed. This is my white lilac that I added last fall. And I have pruned any of the blooms from this season off, as well as any branches that were crossing and rubbing other branches. So hopefully it's happy. It looks pretty good. Here's a tulip. Case, gimme. Thank you. Over here we have some funny things going on. Some volunteer lettuce, some volunteer peas. This is Auric that I'm hoping will go to seed and take over. And I have a little penstemon. That is perennial native hollyhock. My sad melon. There's a blazing star liatris underneath this giant sea holly. That is blooming for the first time spectacularly this year. And there's a bunch of volunteer red Hopi amaranth, a couple of strawflower and rudbeckia I moved over here, a columbine and some volunteer honeywort, as well as I noticed, I'm pretty sure these are little volunteer echinacea, which is very exciting. I don't think I've had those go to seed in my garden yet. So this is a black Barlow columbine. This is not a native. This is a cultivar. But I am a sucker for black flowers. I have a flag iris behind that. More volunteer honeywort. And then I've planted a whole bunch of different stuff in here that I started in the milk jugs this year. So we have verbena. And these are the 3 rudbeckia that came up in the milk jug. What else did I add back here? That looks like a little volunteer hollyhock. There are also, you're gonna have to take my word for it because they're kind of tucked back in there. But there's some little penstemon. The lupin is done blooming, the one lupin that bloomed. This is a double echinacea that's gonna bloom for the first time this year. Very excited about that. And behind it, I actually put two little seedlings. Where's the other one? A couple little guys behind there. Hopefully will bloom next year. And then I added, where are you? Some bee balm back there. This is a native evening primrose. It is also 2 years old and getting ready to bloom for the first time. There was two more over here. I had three. This is the only one that survived the winter. And like I say, I have hollyhocks back here. So any of the one, actually, I don't know. I don't know what color those are gonna be. They will either be white or a double peach or black or a cross. Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. The first delphinium flowers are open. So these were volunteers that I just moved over here last year from a different spot in the garden, and they're gonna bloom for the first time this year. I love delphinium. And these had the delphinium worm in them in the spring, but I didn't do anything about it and the birds took care of it for me. And they're gonna bloom. So these three peonies that I added in here last year are looking good, and this one's actually gonna bloom. Underneath this one, I have 3 blanket flower, there's a volunteer delphinium, and a whole bunch of volunteer rocket larkspur, which I love. And have kind of let, if you see all these hairy ones all over, that's all larkspur that I seeded around the garden last year, or seeded itself around the garden. This is a hollyhock that I'm going to need to move. Planted itself there. There's a little bee balm. This is culinary sage. There are some volunteers here. It looks like blanket flower? I'm not sure. Oh my goodness, this peony is opening. Stunning. I planted this last year. I did not think it would bloom this year. It's normal for peonies to take a couple years to establish before blooming, so that's very exciting. There are some poppies here, just a mix that I planted that are getting ready to bloom. I have somewhere, there was another watermelon. I don't know where it went. Might be done for. Oh, it's right there. It had a stick. So yeah, I don't know that we're gonna get watermelon off of that, but who knows? Step carefully. So there's a volunteer borage there. I have had white and blue borage planted in my garden, so I'm not sure what that will be when it opens. There are some pinky asters going over back there. This flag iris is done blooming. I've moved some volunteer rudbeckia here, as well as a whole bunch more milk jug starts like verbena and penstemon and some lupins down there. And there's another patch of poppies with some flower buds getting ready here. And a larkspur with some flower buds. And then in front of this peony, we have some snapdragons that are also getting ready to bloom. Some thyme that I started from seed this year. A little rosemary that's getting kind of shaded because this columbine was eaten by, I think they were sawfly larvae. Columbine sawfly, I think is what they were. I'm not sure though, because by the time I looked it up, there weren't any on the plants to like actually identify. Another honeywort, another columbine. This blanket flower has a flower bud. The irises are all done blooming, but I'll make sure to add a photo of what they looked like when they were blooming here. It was their first year blooming as well. More snaps getting ready. Lots of these columbine didn't bloom this year because of those worms that were on them, but they have rebounded nicely. I think that the birds ate the worms. So again, more repetition. There's more penstemon in there, lupins, verbena at the back. We have the agastache patch. There's purple agastache and a white agastache. And then coneflower in front, and tucked in between them, I put some hollyhock starts from this year. Actually, hollyhock starts, I think that came from Jackie. Just like the agastache came from Jackie. This lamb's ear that's getting ready to bloom came from Jackie. And, this is a perennial cornflower. And there's a little sedum underneath that I thought died when it got really cold this spring, but it's coming back. More snaps, more larkspur. Here is a thyme that I started from seed last year that is flowering, along with some weeds and volunteer lettuce. And I have another blanket flower, another little honeywort, and these snaps are open. Love that color, and doesn't it look so good with these pinky asters? And we have a double black Barlow columbine here. So pretty. My one perennial rudbeckia that has never bloomed. More lupins. There's a little volunteer agastache down there. Oh my goodness. I think that my heuchera kicked the bucket. Oh, but look at her. She's actually looking really good. I thought that I had planted it over here. That's funny. More blanket flower, more thyme, more larkspur, more snapdragons, lots and lots of repetition. I just feel like that makes a bed feel more cohesive. So like, even though I don't have repetition of all of these plants, repeating things like the larkspur throughout, the blanket flowers throughout, those annuals throughout, like the snapdragons, I just feel like it kind of helps to tie it all together a bit more. Until there's another couple peonies in here that were added last year. I believe this one was from another spot in my yard, and that this one came from Nana's, maybe? It's another black Barlow columbine just finishing up there. Another double. It's so pretty. And oregano that I've harvested once. I should harvest again. I've been pulling my volunteer green onions and walking onions out of this space, making more room, and there's more little rudbeckia seedlings and honeywort seedling. Actually, that's the honeywort seedling. I think with all the rain we got, that when I pinched the honeyworts back, that rooted. Cute. But yeah, some more blanket flowers in here. And then I've planted a couple more penstemon over here. There's a little patch of volunteer poppies there. Here we have the roseberry strawberry plant that I have with the pink flowers. And it is ripening some fruit. So I find these berries don't get too big. but I love the pink flowers, so I will always grow them. Over here I have an oregano that I will probably just let go to flower because I have plenty of oregano saved from last year. More repetition of these black barlow columbine I'm obsessed with. I love those doubles. And a couple more peonies here. And I think that this one came from my yard and that one came from Nana's. I don't quite remember over here what I did. Some of them were mine, some of them were Nana's. They all came from Monique initially. Oh, cute. My garlic chives don't seem to be happy over here. I might move them again next year, but I have garlic chives that have blue flowers. Isn't that such a pretty periwinkle color? So I think I need to move these again so that they can show off a bit better. I have bee balm planted back here, an auric, more bee balm, some bergania, and lots of strawberries in amongst the green onions. These are Lisbon bunching onions. And I think once all these flowers are done, I'm gonna divide these out and just kind of like sprinkle them throughout this bed. I love allium flowers, but I like ones that I can eat. I don't buy the ornamental ones. I think you can eat those too, but they're just really, really expensive. And like these have gone over, but some of them do get good sized flowers and I like them just as well. Plus I can eat them. But I didn't love having just like the big bunch of them over here with the strawberries, and they spread so fast. I started with just like one onion in each little patch, and now they all have like 5 after 2 years. They have all multiplied exponentially. So I think I'm going to kind of spread them out a little bit more and give these strawberries a little bit more leg room. I have a little raspberry patch back here, but Tulip has been 4x4ing in it, and it doesn't get very much sun, so there's definitely not going to be as many raspberries back here, but we'll have some. Here's a look from this angle. I love how full this bed is getting. And so you can see where I'm expanding, where we have the compost bin. So next year the plan is to cover up this grass to the fence. So from my finger over will be the perennial border on this side of the yard. And then coming over to the in-ground space. We have snapdragons blooming over here as well. These are the bronze sonnet. And then we have the squash bed. I didn't end up really getting to harvest much of the bok choy, so I'm letting this go to seed. Pollinators love these flowers. Right now it's quite overcast and early in the morning, so there's not a lot of activity, but when the sun is out, this is just buzzing. And I'm gonna collect seed and try again next year. So over on this side of this bed, I have planted some broad beans, and these are actually broad beans that have black beans. They're so cool. I got them from Moonglow Gardens. And then here I have a mix. This row along the shed here is a mix of sunset runner beans and scarlet runner beans. I still need to put some kind of trellising here for these ones. And then we have squash. Rows of squash. winter squash through this bed. So this is a row of pumpkins. In the middle here is a row of kaboka. And it's funny, the kaboka looked the best when I planted them, and now they look the saddest. And the spaghetti squash over here in this last row looked the saddest when I planted them. And now I think some of these plants are the ones that look the best. Another container of snapdragons, and I think I mixed one of them up. They're all supposed to be bronze sonnet, and that one is clearly not. I also, in the middle of these, have planted some little zinnias along with the weeds. So there's a zinnia, there's a zinnia. 6 of the raised beds here are peppers. So the outside beds, I have, what do I have? 12 peppers in each bed. So this is a Buena Mulata pepper. And then I have put 2 rows of bush beans on either side of the bed. And again, my cilantro I didn't really get to harvest before it went to seed with the weird weather. And so I am just letting this go to seed. And I will be collecting seed off of these. And again, these are great for pollinators. Both of these plants, the cilantro and the bok choy that I have let go to seed, they will attract parasitic wasps, which will help me control caterpillars in my yard. These are the turquoise lagoon sweet peas, which were started at the same time as the sweet peas at the compost bin. So you can really see in comparison, the ones at the compost bin are struggling. But I'm very excited to see that these ones are doing well. These are a color shifting sweet pea. So they change from a turquoise color to like a lilac lavender shade. They are so cool. Here, again, didn't get to harvest any radishes. They got root maggot in them really bad before they got any size to them, and then went to seed. But as you can see, none of them have died from root maggot, so that tells me those parasitic wasps have taken care of that for me. And I planted almost all of my radish seeds this year, so we will be leaving some of these to save seed off of. You can see this was my second planting of the freckles lettuce, and they're still quite small in there. And the ones that we started inside are full size. I will be leaving a couple of these here to go to seed as well, because I will be needing more seed from those this year. I think I planted all of mine. So this bed has my Tahiti sunset snapdragons. You can see they're starting to bloom. And just this week, I went in and planted my zinnias. So this is from my mix that I saved a couple years ago. So really excited to see what those are gonna be. A little pot with a basil and a marigold and a micro dwarf tomato that is setting flowers. So lots of peppers. I think I planted like 72 peppers or something this year. And then bush beans on the sides. I have lots of different kinds of bush beans, and I did something silly. I was like, oh, I can tell all these beans apart really easily looking at the dried bean seed. And so I only labeled the ones that would be hard to tell apart. Not thinking about how green beans all look exactly the same when they're fresh. So, well, not all of them. I have some burgundy beans. I have some yellow beans. So I will be able to tell some of them, but that was silly. So this peony does have a support underneath there, but it just does not seem to care about that. Wish you could smell this through the screen. And I'm getting through to the last trays of annuals and things that are just extra, and then I have my plants from Jackie. Tulip has her bone. Oh, is the mom? Babies. There's a blue jay nest in my tree. Oh, there she is. I think she has 2 babies in there. Anyways, another micro dwarf tomato pot. This one's a fat frog. And it also has flowers on there. More basil and a marigold. And so again, these boxes on the sides have peppers and beans. And so what do we got here? This box has my variegated peppers. So these are fish peppers, these 2 at the front. That one, I don't know if we're gonna get anything off that, but we'll see. These are collage peppers. How pretty are those? And then in the middle, I have a row of banana peppers, and on the edge is red Marconi. This is my bed of King of the North peppers, but this row at the back here is the red Marconi. This bed is all red Marconi, except I ran out of peppers. So I planted extra seed potatoes back here last week, and they are coming up already. Our row of sweet peas along the fence here is looking pretty good, and they're almost tall enough that I can start kind of getting them to attach to the trellis here. I think what I should do is run a wire in between the ground and where that trellis starts, so that I can kind of tuck them behind, because they always try and just creep out into the walkway before they get tall enough to reach. I think I put it a little higher than it needed to be, maybe. And so these 2 pots here are the same. They have a Rosy Falls tomato and different basils and a marigold, which these are the marigolds that I got at the plant exchange, and I just think they are so pretty. Normally I don't really care for like red and orange flowers, but I feel like I've been influenced by Growing in the Cove by Stacy. And I don't know, this year I just have a newfound love for orange and red flowers. This bed I'm so excited about. So this is a dahlia bed. There's also a giant spinach that has been blown over in the wind that I'm hoping to collect seed off of. And again, our cilantro that has gone to seed. But the rest of this bed, I have the dahlias, and so there are 4 here that are the Mingus Tony dahlias that I saved the tubers over the winter. This one in the middle here is the burgundy dahlia that I got at the plant swap. And then these 3 are the rooted cuttings that I took from that burgundy dahlia. And these cuttings, I used a rooting hormone tea that I actually made. So in these beds on either side of the center box, I have planted my zucchinis. So I just pulled out the lettuce and the radishes that were where I wanted the zucchinis to go, and have been continuing to harvest this lettuce. We've been eating a lot. We've been giving lots away. The last bed here is my partner's bed, and everything is doing really well. We have 2 jalapenos at the front, the cilantro, Along the sides here, there are onions. In the middle, there's a couple of zinnia, and I think these are Oklahoma salmon. These are the 2 English cucumbers, his Bayou Moon tomato, and 2 pickling cucumbers.
So that was part 1 of our garden walk. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will be looking at the in-ground garden space next. Thanks again. See you next time.